Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Rob Bergman. I'm a senior product manager here at RapidScale. And today we'll be talking about Microsoft Teams and quickly walking through the product to highlight some of the value it can add to your organization. First, a little bit about us at RapidScale. We're a global managed service provider that was acquired by Cox in 2018. And our goal really is to help organizations increase productivity and improve security and empower remote workers to work from anywhere, anytime, from any device. And we do this via a number of cloud-based IT solutions, services that we offer, including SD-WAN, desktop as a service, disaster recovery as a service, managed security and firewall services, and obviously the Microsoft productivity tools that you'll see today. All of our services are manageable via our customer portal. It provides a single pane of glass to all RapidScale customers across all their services. And we have a very flexible management model in that it's very people focused. We give customers the option to have us fully manage their infrastructure and solution, or we can co-manage it with them or let them manage it all together and be available for support. So whatever works best for them is what we do. All of our agents and engineers are US based. We're direct problem solvers. We don't triage problems. So when you pick up the phone and call somebody, you're getting someone at the other end of the phone there that can fix your problem. And the result's a very high net promoter score in the high 70s, a lot of happy customers. So as background, as I'm sure you're all aware, COVID-19's created a situation where a lot of organizations are needing to enable workers to work remotely. But it's great because it's in some ways it's better for the organization. It can be cheaper. It can improve employee morale and productivity. But there's a challenge in that there wasn't a lot of option for foresight or planning for this. I like how Time Magazine calls COVID-19 the world's largest work from home experiment. The organizations need to do this and do it quickly. And they're finding now as they start to have success with it, there's been several studies from Gartner and Gallup and Microsoft that they're planning to actually make this a permanent solution going forward that will outlast COVID. But the main challenge they're having is that they have to enable these employees to work remotely, even if it's part-time, and do it in a way that ensures they can still effectively engage and collaborate and communicate with others, which can be difficult. Finding the right tools to enable workers to engage remotely is challenging when you think about all the different things we used to have in your typical office. So conference rooms and desk phones and whiteboards and face-to-face meetings. We have to replace all that virtually now and do it in a way that doesn't overwhelm workers with multiple tools. For instance, having Zoom for meetings and having a different tool for audio conferencing or voice conferencing, and having a different tool for collaboration and having Slack for chat. It overwhelms users. There's too many tools. There's no synergy between all four of them. And there's no context. There's no way to know within a chat what happened on that previous phone call. There's no way to switch between those seamlessly. This is definitely where Teams can help. If you think about the four core things you have to tackle to really engage remote workers, and Microsoft did a study on this. Number one, we have to bring the workers together and bring their teams together to collaborate, whether it's via phone, chat, or just sharing information. And secondly, we have to enable them to be able to use any device anywhere to do that. So it starts to talk about a BYOD strategy or bring your own device strategy, where users can leverage personal devices for work purposes and that sort of thing. Thirdly, we have to connect not just internal employees, but also external parties like customers and vendors, external partners, those sort of things. And lastly, we have to really effectively replace that face-to-face meeting experience in a virtual sense that still feels personal. So what Microsoft's basically done, it's actually a Microsoft slide, but I like using this because it explains very well where the different tools and fit within the ecosystem here. One of the things we hear from customers pretty frequently is questions around what does Teams do versus email and SharePoint and Yammer? And it's a good question because Microsoft's released a lot of tools within Office and Microsoft 365, and there's definitely some perceived overlap. The way Microsoft recommends looking at this, and this can really help you determine what you need to position with users and when, is that there's an inner loop that it can include internal and external people. So it can be employees and customers and partners and vendors. The key with the inner loop is that the communication needs to happen seamlessly and pretty frequently to be effective. So it can include that chat and meetings and phone calls, collaboration and whiteboarding. Microsoft Teams really is the one product that handles all this, and we'll see that in a moment. Teams works very closely with SharePoint and OneDrive to enable sharing of documents and real-time collaborative editing. I'll show you an example of that too when we dive into the demo. And then there's Yammer on the right-hand side for the outer loop. That's more for organizational announcements, internal company-wide communication. It's more one-way communication to a wider audience, and you're going to use Yammer or a different tool for that. You're not going to use Teams for that typically. And then obviously underlying all that here is Microsoft Outlook, which is your email. It's very pervasive. It's very targeted. You can send specific emails to specific individuals and get responses back. It's less about the collaboration and communication and sharing that you see within Teams. So let's look into how Microsoft Teams actually does this. There's 3 different things you have to really tackle, and we'll go over these in the demo. There's meetings and calling that allow you to communicate with people and be able to share information. There's chat and collaboration that lets you start to bring multiple people in the conversation and really start to store information in kind of a dynamic sense. And then there's apps and a workflow that you can bring into the first 2 experiences, into meetings and calling and chat and collaboration, and kind of extend the experience and make that more powerful. And we'll go through this in the demo. So let me switch back here. I'll switch over to my browser and walk you guys through this. So here is Microsoft Teams. Now, I'm using a web-based version of Teams here. You can see it here. The reason I'm using a web-based version, it's a little bit easier to demo. Microsoft plans that include Teams either include it for web and mobile, which means you can download the app off the App Store for iPhone and the Google Play Store for Android. Some of the plans also include a local version of Teams, so you actually can install Teams on your desktop. All 3 work identically. All 3 have the exact same GUI, the exact same experience. So what you'll see here will be exactly what you see when you launch Teams on your mobile phone or on your tablet or on your desktop. I'm going to walk through the features in a way similar to how the users will adopt them. So we'll go through chat, calling, and meetings first, all the ways people communicate via Teams. We'll talk about Teams and channels, which is really the collaboration engine behind Teams. And then we'll get into briefly into app extensions. I'll show you how those work and how powerful those can be. Your users will generally adopt the communication tools, the chat, calling, and meetings first because they're familiar. They look like Office and Outlook. They get people to collaborate, and it really is nice to have all that functionality, the chat, the calling, and the meetings, all from one tool, and not have to flip between different tools into WebEx and Slack and that kind of thing. Having them all here is not just convenient. There's also context between them that I'll show you in a moment. You'll see users start to use Teams channels, and I'll show you guys that in a moment as well, obviously. They'll start to use that more for project-based stuff at first, and then you'll see that gradually kind of ramp into organizational teams starting to use that for their direct reports and the people they work with. And then the apps are just something that extends both those functionalities. So we'll start with chat first. The first thing you want to pay attention when you open Teams, actually, just before I get into chat, these red indicators indicate that I have content there I need to pay attention to. In this case, someone started to chat me that I haven't read yet. When I read that, that will go away. This indicates someone mentioned me in a Teams channel. We'll dive into that. And this indicates that I've got a voicemail. I'll show you that as well. But regarding the chat functionality, pretty easy to use. I've got all the recent chats here that I've had, all the communication that I've had. I go into contacts. I can click this and click add. And I can actually, I've already got Lenny here, but I could add new people to this conversation. And she's already added here, as you can see. When I do that lookup there, that's looking up my Azure-based Active Directory. You can also add external people that are partners or vendors if you federate your Active Directory with theirs. And that's something that Managed Service Provider like us can help you with. But so it's not, everything you see here is not just limited to internal people. You can extend this functionality in a very secure kind of role-based access control manner to external people as well. So if I click here, I can start chatting with Lynn. How are the latest budget numbers? And she can reply back, obviously, and we can have a conversation here. I can add other people to this chat. So I can add Isaiah, and now they're both in here, and he can see all the conversation we've had both historically and going forward. I can actually share files from here as well. This is pretty powerful. If I click on share here, I have 2 options, OneDrive and upload from computer. Upload from computer is fine. You can upload files from your local PC if you want to share them here, but I always recommend that people upload them to OneDrive first and then share them out from OneDrive. You can share this whether it's in Teams or SharePoint or directly access them from OneDrive. And the reason is collaboration. Number one, all 3 of us, Isaiah, Lynn, and myself, can all work on that file at the same time. And we're all making updates dynamically, and their updates will show as I'm making my updates. We do this every week for a weekly report that our 5-person team has. We're all on there at the same time making updates. It's super easy and super nice to have that kind of collaboration there. Secondly, if I make an update offline, say the chat ends or our meeting ends, and 2 days from now I make an update to that file because it's stored in OneDrive and I made my updates there. When someone dives back into this chat, say Isaiah does a week from now, because he remembered I posted a file up there he needed to check out. When he opens it, he'll see all the updates that I made. He's not looking at a stale copy. So you really start to get away from the problem where multiple files get stored in multiple places. You want to store your files in OneDrive and then just basically provide links to those. And it really gets rid of that multiple version problem of documentation. So chat's pretty straightforward. Let's talk about calling briefly. So if I click on calls down here, right away you can see I've got a voicemail. I can click on this. I can listen to that voicemail. In terms of making calls, speed dial here shows me some of my favorites and suggested contacts. These are all coming from my Azure Active Directory. So it's picking up people from this. I can add new people, obviously, and it will. I can do lookups both on my Azure Active Directory and that federated directory as well. From here, I can start a call. So it actually starts I don't know if it was set up. It actually calls him, and then if it's going to forward his voice. But if he were to pick up, then I would see his avatar there, and I'd be able to just talk to him like I'm talking to you now. It's all full voice integration. It's also worth noting here, you can actually see awareness as well. So in terms of presence, this indicates that they're offline. This indicates that I'm online and available. If I were in a scheduled meeting or my calendar, you'll see calendar in a moment as well. If I was in a meeting, that would actually turn to red. So you can see whether people are busy or online. I can actually set myself to be do not disturb as well. So I'm online, but please don't contact me. I'm doing something like a demo like this, for instance. But back to calling for a sec. I can do a video call as well. So if they're video enabled, they'll be able to see me and I'll be able to see them. I can create new groups and be able to have multi-way calls as well. I can see all the history of the phone calls that I've made. And the other thing here I don't have set up, if I were to click on make a call and it were set up, I don't have the right version of Office 365 in my demo environment. But if I did, you'd see an actual dial pad here. And what you can do is you can integrate Teams with either a Microsoft cloud-based PBX called Microsoft Phone System as a product we sell as well, and Microsoft calling plans, or you can integrate it with existing internal PBX and PSTN to be able to make your Teams app basically be a soft client, basically be a soft phone. So you can make calls directly to phone numbers. You can have people directly dial you in words from their phone. You'd have a number right here to be published. That'd be a fully working phone number. And you can actually integrate this Teams experience, the calling experience, not just with desk phones, but also with conference room equipment. So they've really done a nice job with integrating not just chat, but also calling and meetings and this team collaboration piece, and being able to extend that out, to other phone systems and PBX as well, where you can do things like auto attendant and queues and hunt groups and all those sort of things. So really, really, really powerful feature there. In terms of meetings, I go into the calendar here. This calendar is the same calendar that I see in Outlook. It's all based on the Exchange mailbox backend. So everything you see here is exactly how you see it in Outlook. If I schedule a meeting from here, it'll show up in Outlook. If I schedule a meeting in Outlook, it'll show up here, and I can add, there's actually an icon with an Outlook that you can add a Teams meeting to. I'm going to dive into this meeting here. And I'm going to click, you can see the people that were invited to it. You can see the subject. Obviously, it's the same thing as Outlook. It's got the duration for the meeting. It's not a repeating meeting. I can actually set it for a channel. I can configure it here to actually reside within one of these Teams channels, and I'll show you that in a moment. I can pick a conference room location, and I can add all the rich text and agenda and stuff that I want to down here, but I'm going to click join. And the meeting will start. I can start my webcam. If I start webcam, and other folks have it on as well, it will show all the individuals here. I believe right now you're limited to 3x3, but Microsoft's looking to expand that so you can see 9 people at a time. If I want to see other attendees, I can click on this. I can see the people invited. I can see the people actually in the meeting. I can mute myself on and off. If I need to take another call or something, I can mute and then unmute. There's a share functionality, so I can share my desktop with all the people in the meeting. I can share certain files that I have open. There's also a feature called Whiteboard, which is pretty compelling. This is a new addition that Microsoft added to the product. And if I load this approximates what you do in a conference room with an actual whiteboard. And everyone can see this and everyone can work on it with you. So I can add, various, I've already worked on this a little bit, as you can tell, I'm quite the artist. I can add various diagrams here, and you can do flowcharts, you can do reference architecture, all sorts of fun stuff. And when you're done, you can actually store this, and you can actually send it out via chat or store it in one of these Teams channels that we'll talk about in a moment, so people can see it after and have context around the conversation. There's a raise hand feature. This comes in handy if there's multiple people in the group. If I have this open, you see my raised hand over there. If there's multiple people in the conversation and people are talking over each other, you can raise your hand to kind of get their attention and say what you have to say. There's chat functionality, and I use this pretty frequently if we're in a meeting and someone's speaking and I want to add some context to what they're saying. I can add chat there, and you'll see that chat when you go back here. You'll see a chat for the meeting that you were in, so you can further continue that conversation out of the meeting in a chat sense. A couple other things I can do. I can start a recording. For instance, we're recording this meeting, and that recording gets piped off to Microsoft Streams, which is Azure-based. It's storage for your meetings. And basically, to share that out when you're done, it'll actually notify you when you're done sharing. When you stop the recording, you just click on the link, copy that to your clipboard, and then send it out to wherever you want. You can send it via chat or email, whatever you have to do. So that's kind of all the functionality around meetings. Pretty powerful. I'm going to hang up the meeting here, and I'm going to dive into Teams and channels, which is where a lot of the collaboration really happens. So when I click on this, you'll see a bunch of different different teams here. Teams are organized initially around projects for the most part. That's where I see it used most frequently. So here's a Mark8 project team. But as people use it more frequently, you'll see them start to do it by organizational teams. You see US sales, retail, sales and marketing, etc. I'm going to focus on the Mark8 project team. So these indicate that I've got mentions. I have @mentions that people have notified me I need to go out and check these out. So here I can see that Isaiah wanted me to know that I need to review a contract. And I can go back to him and I can reply. I can actually see the replies here. And I'm being notified again. I can actually reply to this and say @Isaiah. We're all set. He'll get notification just like I did. He can go in here and see and know that we're all set with this, and not just him, but also anybody else participating in this particular team. There's a bunch of different, and you can communicate here, you can start conversation and such. There's a bunch of different functionality you can use. So in terms of files, if you look here at all the different files that have been shared out, I can upload files. I can sync these with a local copy. I can copy links and send them. I can download them and work on them offline. But the cool thing about this is all stored in OneDrive. So if I click over here to OneDrive and I go Mark8 project team, documents, go to market plan, I see the same files here that are being represented here. And it's actually all looking at OneDrive. So again, I talked about it during chat, but people can modify these files on OneDrive, and it's a single known good kind of copy of the file. If I were to modify the file here via my local copy of Excel, as I made the updates, if people hopped into the team channel here and access that file, they see the same thing. Where this comes in really handy and powerful, this in Wiki, which I'll show you in a moment. If you're working on a project and that project's going to get handed off to somebody afterwards, like we did a recent enhancement to our desktop as a service program. The engineers and the team that worked on that would use these @mentions whenever there was something that I needed to be aware of. They would say something like, we have the new desktop definitions. So as a product manager, I have to be aware of those because I have to productize those. It's a way to draw my attention to this, and I can see not just their message here, but actually all the context. I can scroll up and understand everything that happened up to that point to come to that decision point. The same thing with files. They can put build files here. They can put different presentations and Excel workbooks. And when you're done and transition this team to a lifecycle service, like our support and management team, or our managed services team, they'll be able to see all the files that were worked on during the build, which gives a lot of context into how things really worked. And there's a wiki where I can keep kind of freehand notes away from a file. So I can just put, notes here. I can, whether it's build or maintain or just, hey, look out for this. This is a problem. It's a known issue. Once I'm done with this and transition that to that lifecycle team, they'll have all the context here around what I built and kind of what I did. A couple other tools we can use in here. If if I go to forms, so these are all applications you can add. So I talked about apps before and how they add richness to that experience. I can add something like forms, which is included with a lot of Microsoft 365 plans. I can call this Mark8 feedback. And this particular application lets me add multiple choice or add text or ratings. How effective is Mark8 in customer service? I can make that the question, and then I can basically save that, and people can jump into this. I can link to it as well within the channel. They can set their setting and then just submit it, and then I'll see their responses here, and I'll be able to judge whether or not we're doing well or not doing well and that sort of thing. So there's a bunch of different apps like this. There's apps that are represented here. If I click on more apps, it actually brings me to the Microsoft Store. There's any number of apps out there. Definitely recommend exploring those as you start to use Teams and start to use channels. You can get really powerful with that. And the vast majority of these are free. They're all kind of included within your Office subscription or free from the Microsoft Store. So definitely a lot there we can explore. Some other brief things with the chat functionality here. You can see I did an earlier demo, so that got encapsulated here because when I scheduled that demo, I set this as the team. If you think about what I did here before, when I schedule a new meeting, I can set a channel. Well, here I had set the channel has this particular one, so it's stored here, and I can click on that and watch it. Here, this individual is posting something in a different language. I can hit translate, and I can understand what he's trying to say there, so I can go ahead and reply and get the status report. You can add a lot of rich context. This is Jimmy Fallon getting very excited for some reason, but great teamwork. You can add files, all kinds of rich context here. So the key is that from a calling, a chat, and a meeting perspective, you're using one tool, and the tools are the components here are actually linked. So when I'm in a chat, I can link to a team. If I want to talk to somebody and have a conversation, I can see all the different conversation points here, and then I can hop out. If I highlight him, I can message him and chat with him here, and that chat will be substantiated over here when I check. So it's a very integrated tool, provides a lot of synergy, and really gets users away from having to use multiple tools for communication. It really does drive that that collaboration. So just to wrap this up briefly and get back to the presentation, just an example, we use this internally for our product management function. So if I add a new service queue, I post a note in the product catalog channel that's managed by our development team. So that'd be something like this. And I might tag certain people that need to know about the new service we're releasing so they can put it out to our customer portal. And operations and sales might go into that chat and notice that I posted something and have questions about the scope. And they might, rather than ask me directly and have 5 sales engineers or 4 operations people ask the same question via chat, they'll know that other people might be interested in this, and they'll actually start a conversation with me within the channel and say, hey, if you thought about XYZ, and then I reply and there's a conversation, and it's all stored there so other people who have the same question can pop in there and see it and not have to ask again. If there's another question a month later about how we configured something, they can actually do a simple search. Say it was a question about a UX. They can do a search on UX, and it searches all these different teams you're a member of, and I can hop directly to what I need to know. So very powerful in that regard. It really is true collaboration. It really is pretty simple. In terms of controlling these, there's a lot you can do with management. So I can click Manage Team. I can see pending requests. If the channel is locked down for some reason, if I want to secure it and I want to approve people that are able to see it, I can go ahead and do that. I can see all of the owners. In this case, I'm one of 3. I can see all the members and guests. You can actually invite people externally from your organization if you have that federated Active Directory, or I can create actual accounts for them within Teams if they want to be a guest and just be able to view things. I can see the various channels I configured, and I can get granular with some of the role-based security. There's different settings I can do. Here they have a team picture set up. I can control member permissions pretty granularly with role-based access control. I can control @mentions. Always recommend leaving this on. It's a pretty powerful feature, and it really draws your attention to content you need to be aware of. And there's fun stuff. We saw some of this with Jimmy Fallon, but memes and videos and such. and then tags. You can use # tags to be able to search more effectively and draw people's attention to certain things. I can see analytics. I can see the number of users and apps and really what's being used in terms of engagements and such. This being a demo doesn't have a lot of content here, but this becomes really valuable when you're looking at archiving teams. You don't want to have sprawl here. We have a number of different teams you have to paw through and 50 different updates in terms of notification. As an owner, you kind of have responsibility to go on these periodically. I recommend monthly and just see whether or not it's really something that's still being used or whether it can be mothballed. And then I can also configure what apps I want to make available. In this case, I added Forms because I thought that was powerful, but I could add Planner in here if it was a project, if I wanted to access data, if I wanted to have actually be able to if you had like a data cube or data warehouse and you wanted to mine data and be able to present conclusions from that data within a Teams channel, you'd integrate the Power BI application. So a lot of rich different things you can do to keep people in the Teams experience and not have to have them use other applications and constantly be alt tabbing. You can really have them work within Teams and Outlook and pretty much do their entire job. So with that, I'm going to share back the presentation for a moment. So one quick note about the Teams platform before I dive into how to get Teams. When the COVID-19 situation started, there was a 19-day period where Microsoft saw 500% growth in Teams meetings. Just forget about the chat and all that functionality. In meeting minutes alone, they saw 500% growth from 560 million, which is pretty consistent for the previous year, to 2.7 billion. And that's tremendous growth. In terms of scalability, it performed admirably. It's all based on an Azure backend. It's all very scalable. We really, from all of our customers and even our internal use, we really didn't see any problems at all. So it was very, very admirable, the performance that got out of that. And it gives confidence that it can scale going forward as more and more people work from home. It's tightly integrated with Azure AD, as you saw. It supports single sign-on and MFA in terms of additional security there. And there's encryption and compliancy built in the product as well. One of the cool things about it being a web-based app and having Microsoft update your Office apps locally installed periodically is they release new features every 2 weeks or so. They have a very agile development cycle. So custom backgrounds to compete with Zoom, that came out a few weeks ago. Background blurring, you saw the raised hand functionality. I think that was in there a month or 2 ago. Participant report is something that's great for larger meetings where you can see who participated and how long they were on. It's great for webinars and trainings and that kind of thing. Real-time noise suppression came in handy about a month ago. I did a webinar for a different product, and I had a fully operating wood chipper about 100 feet from my door, and nobody could hear it on the meeting. So noise suppression really has been improved over time. They've done a really great job of that. In terms of versions of Teams, you'll probably hear about a free version of Teams. There's 2 versions out there. The free version is a web-only app. You can't install it on your mobile. You can't install it on your desktop. And it really is more appropriate for just testing the product. You're limited to one-to-one communication. You can't do calling and screen shares with multiple people. You can't do any of the meeting functionality, which is super powerful. In terms of the paid version, you have unlimited members. You have a little bit more storage. You'd be surprised how fast you can go through a gig if you're using things like OneDrive and sharing, larger files. So having that 1 terabyte per user is critical. And you have all the functionality in the product, whether you're using it on the web-based version, it's paid, or using it on the local or mobile. Your video conferences can be up to 250 people. If you want to do more than that, you can do an online event like this, and you can have it be a one-way meeting for up to 10,000 people. So definitely recommend you start with the paid Teams version. You might already have it. So if you look at how you get the paid Teams version, it's actually included in all of the Microsoft 365 and Office 365 plans that are mail enabled, except for Exchange Online Plan 1 and Plan 2. So if you have Exchange Online, you'll have to upgrade. But the nice thing about these is that if you buy E1 or if you buy E3 or E5 or buy like a business premium or even a business standard, you're able to get the local version. So you can use it locally. You can install it just like you do Office. You can use it on your iOS and your Android device, and you can use it via the web. And it's all obviously the same look and feel and all the same back end. So there's been times before I've been on a meeting in my house on a Teams meeting on my PC where it's locally installed, and I need to go outside for a moment. If I want to be abreast of what's happening in a meeting, I don't want to lose anything. So I'll actually start the meeting on my phone, I'll mute the meeting on my desktop, and it's all very seamless. No one even knows that I had to change devices. So it works great in that regard. We sell all these plans at Rapid Scale that include Teams. Some things about the value we add with this. Each seat that we sell includes not just 24/7 IT admin support, so configuration assistance or break fix assistance for your IT folks. We also include that support at no additional cost for your entire end user community. So 24/7 end users, they can contact us directly. We put a problem solver on the phone. We help them fix their problem, whether it's Teams or Office, whatever they have, we'll help them. Our services include guided onboarding and email migration and include managed services. So if your IT admin has a question about configuration or a question about how a feature works, all they got to do is call us. Again, problem solver picks up the phone and we can help them understand how a feature works or go ahead and configure it for them based on whatever their business needs are. And if you think about that Teams interface, that can be a little bit intimidating when you first get in there, especially for an end user. It's not technical. That's why with every single seat of Office 365 and Microsoft 365, we include Nulia-based online training for Teams. We actually include 2 modules. One is Teams, and one is it's configurable. You can choose. But the reason we include Teams is we want people to be comfortable getting in there and using it. And if they're not, they can watch a 15-minute video. They can understand how chat works, and things will evolve from there. They'll notice they're getting mentioned in Teams channels, and they'll dive into that, or they'll click on, they'll find a friend organizationally and click on the web meeting of the voice meeting and be able to start using that and really get familiar with it. And as your organization kind of mandates this and ensures that people are trained in using it, you can get to a position where you can start to get rid of your investment in other tools like your WebEx and your web conferencing and auto conferencing and your Slack or whatever your chat engine is, and be able to use Teams as not just a consolidated tool that has synergy and context or all the different methodologies there to collaborate, but it's also included probably in the plan you're using for Office. So it's probably included in your email plan already. You really want to, if you're already paying for it, you want to take advantage of that and make sure you're leveraging your investment in that. That's all I had today. I appreciate everybody joining. Hopefully you learned something a little bit about Teams and kind of how that works and what the value is. And if you have any additional questions, I recommend you reach out to your Rapid Scale sales rep and they'll be able to give you a hand. Thank you very much.